to Catch You Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Movies. This podcast is centered around the great outdoors, especially down here, way down here in the southern regions of the continental United States, the Florida Keys. Catch You Outdoors is hosted by Spotify and also available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Stitcher. So kick back for a little while and get a taste of my Florida. This week's episode of Catch You Outdoors is number 103. 1,700 Islands is the title. Episode 103, my goodness. We're getting dangerously close to season 3 here. A couple episodes away. I got something special planned for that, so stay tuned. That'll be episode 105 if I'm doing my math right. But first, some news and a fishing report. Yes, this podcast has become a little shorter. But there's a reason for that. It may also be longer at times. That's the advantage of having a podcast. It's all mine. If I feel like I need to yak, I'll yak. And if not, I won't. But I'll do my best to put an episode out every single week. So far, so good. Over the Labor Day weekend between the 2nd and 4th, the FWC, that's Fish and Wildlife Commission, removed 20 unsafe and impaired vessel operators from the waterways of Florida for boating under the influence. They also cited 380 for various legal infractions and provided education and warnings to over 2,800 boaters for safety violations. There were 0 fatalities reported over the holiday weekend. That is great. The 2,800 boater infractions for safety, that's a lot. People, I've done this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. There's certain pieces of equipment that must be on the boat when you go, like a life jacket for everyone, a throw cushion, fire extinguishers, a sounding horn, flares. I could go on. It's like, 7 or 8 items. I mean, get it together, folks. Let's get this done. 2,800 people cited for not having certain safety equipment when you need it, you're going to wish you'd had it. So let's put it that way. On October the 14th, I'll be an instructor at Ladies Let's Go Fishing, held at the Elks Lodge in Tavernier in the Florida Keys. Yep, I've done this event in Naples and Fort Myers. And I'm glad to be asked to help out at this one in the Keys. Ladies, if you haven't heard about this is a great opportunity to learn how to fish, plain and simple. If you fished a little bit, or you've just kind of been along for the ride, and you don't feel like you are, in any way have any expertise in the art of tying a knot, for example, this is where you need to go. It's really great. And honestly, most of the women I fish with that are fisher folks, they outfish men. And so you should be proud of that and get yourselves out there and work at doing it yourselves. I've actually met a lot of gals now that run boats on themselves by themselves and take their friends with their gal friends with them. And I think that's very cool. Times are a-changing. It's not just a man's sport. So Ladies Let's Go Fishing is coming up. That's October the 14th. That's when I'll be there. It runs for like 3 days. It's usually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can get more information at ladiesletsgofishing.com. And if you're not in this area, if you're in Fort Myers, Naples, East Coast, Fort Lauderdale, she runs them all over the place. So, there will come a time when it'll be available to you closer to home probably. But the Keys are fun. Everglades National Park. Here's some really cool news. The all-new 24-unit Flamingo Lodge, including studios and 1- and 2-bedroom suites with kitchenettes and balconies overlooking Florida Bay, opens on November the 1st for guests. Rates range from $259 to $399 a night, plus tax, through May 2024 with a 14-day maximum stay. An adjacent standalone restaurant is slated to open along with the lodge. The park's fully renovated the Pink Guy Bradley Visitor Center with interactive nature and art exhibits and expansive views overlooking Florida Bay is open daily from 8 to 5. I've been there. That's really a pretty awesome place. Florida National Park Association bookstore is in the center with books and Everglades souvenirs. The 2,400 square mile park, the continental United States' 3rd largest national park. Go there, man. Check it out. Everglades National Park is something to see, and a great bunch of it's in the water. That's what I like. That's my favorite part. But the Flamingo Lodge reopening is quite an event. It has been years since it was shut down by a hurricane, and I honestly thought it would never come back. Well, it's come back bigger and better than ever. You can call for reservations right now. It doesn't open until November 1, but you can get reservations now. And if you want them, I would suggest you get on it. FlamingoEverglades.com. Okay, there you go. This is interesting news. A new Key West marina, Happy Landings Marina, is going to open this fall in Key West for 75 vessels up to 40 feet in length. The marina is to feature graded 24-hour access, dock and concierge services, a fish cleaning station, ice machines, and parking. 30 boat lifts are also initially planned with capability to hoist boats up to 20,000 pounds out of the water, so you don't have to keep your boat in water if you don't want to. Some of you. Future plans include up to 38 additional boat lifts, an office clubhouse with climate-controlled locker storage, and 2 rental apartments will be available in late 2024. It's going to be located at 2407 North Roosevelt Boulevard. Visit happylandingsmarina.com or call 305-518-1189. This sounds like a fantastic addition to Key West. For you boaters and you people that like to stay aboard while you visit, there's no better way, because getting a room in Key West is really interesting and parking sucks. So if you got a boat and a bicycle, you got it made. The Herman Lucerne Memorial Backcountry Fishing Championship, September 15th through 17th. This is right around the corner. Named after the man known affectionately as Mr. Everglades, the event is headquartered at the Islander Resort in Islamorada. Anglers target fish in multiple species only in the boundaries of Everglades National Park. Anglers are challenged to catch at least 1 tarpon, redfish, snook, sea trout, snapper, bonefish, and black drum. Awards are given in 22 individual categories. So that's always a fun one. And it's I don't know. Some of us were lucky enough to meet him. He was quite a character. Let's see what else is going on. Hang on here. Shuffling papers. Let's see. Stake Talk. I'll get this out. Take Stock in Children Backcountry Challenge, September 22 through 24. This annual tournament in Key Largo offers anglers the opportunity to win coveted trophies for trout, snook, and redfish. Fishing is allowed around the clock from Friday night through Sunday afternoon. A popular weekend auction showcase and Sunday evening dinner are open to the public. Proceeds support local vocational scholarships for all ages and Take Stock in Children scholarships for financially challenged Upper Key students. Come down and enjoy yourself. This is one of those almost like a funament, but not quite. Yeah, there's a little more to it than that, but it's a fun time. Special note about closings for the month of September in the Florida Keys. I wanted to make sure I added this because things have been popping up pretty quick here. Plus some notes like, what do you mean it's closed? Yes, indeed. The Florida Keys still has that tradition of closing up shop, especially restaurants. It's in play down here in the Keys. They use it. It happens all over Florida. Actually, it used to happen everywhere in Florida in September, but it's still doing it here. This is basically to give staff a break, usually a whole month off, make repairs, deep cleanings, just basically revamp the restaurant, maybe reorganize it in some cases. You can walk in and the dining area has been changed up. So just so you know, these are a few that I know. There are lists available online. I would highly suggest that you check with a place if you're down here in September into the first week of October visiting. You want to check directly with the restaurant or wherever it is you like to go and eat. If there's a good chance they're not open. So that's how it is. Ones I do know about, down in Key West, Louis' Backyard is closed until September the 29th. That's the restaurant itself for dinner. October the 2nd for lunch, and the cafe reopens. That's the cafe upstairs on October the 4th. The Blue Heaven, one of my favorite breakfast stops, is closed until October the 6th for dinner. That means the breakfast won't be served until the 7th. So, and these are already closed. I don't need to give you a beginning date. It's already a done deal. Right here in Key Largo, one of my favorites, the Fish House, that's closed until September the 29th, the evening of the 29th for dinner. Square Grouper, Cujo Key is closed until October the 10th, and the one here in Islamorada is closed until October the 4th. Those are the ones I was able to really verify and go on the web and look up. And these are places that I like to visit. So obviously I went and looked. But just so you know, some are taking shorter breaks too. So that's why I want you to check. Sometimes it's just a week or two. But some do still do the old traditional 1 month break. So there you go. Well, I didn't go fishing last week. Sorry, people. Man, it's not really being lax. Sometimes I feel that way, though. Things just get in the way. You know, they say retirement, right? You're just going to have all this stuff you can do, and you can kick back in your easy chair and watch football. And no, that's not how it works. There's plenty to do. And you find that you want to do things because you're not working. It's like, well, I think I'm going to go do that. So a lot of stuff it came up this week, mostly running up to Fort Myers again to do a radio show this past week and this past Saturday, which, by the way, was a lot of fun. That was my old radio show, Real Talk Radio. I went up there and did that and really had a great time. It's good to see the people up there. I'm going to go Monday, which I'm recording this on Sunday. So I'm going to go tomorrow. But I'm not going to be able to obviously put that report up on this podcast. It's a pretty good excuse now for this Sunday thing. I was doing podcasts on late Monday, so I could kind of cover everything sort of up to date. Well, they're building a house next door. Really nice house. and they're crashing and banging and machinery and concrete trucks and everything you can possibly imagine Monday through Saturday. So it's going to have to be Sundays. That's all there is to it. Otherwise, the ambient noise, this is not a recording studio. This is my office. And there's a window in my office directly facing the construction area, which, by the way, is fascinating. I get to watch somebody build a house, and for some reason, I kind of like that. It's a guy thing. So we'll be recording on Sundays. I'm planning on doing fishing Monday for sure tomorrow. I'm actually already set up for it. And then I will probably go again Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to try to hit at least 2 days a week. Things are calming down a little bit for me. It's September. Things are getting quieter in the Keys. I'll do my best. I'm going to try to hit 2 days this coming week, provided that monster hurricane, Lee, doesn't give us any big outflows or choppy seas, which it might. But I'm still going to make the effort to get back on the back bay, even if it's a little breezy, hide from the breeze. So the good news on the fishing lines is it's finally cooling off by Keys standards. We got a low of 77 last night and a high today of 90. And that right there is pretty much where it should be this time of year and will continue to be until probably the second week of October. So the nights are getting a little cooler. Days are getting shorter. I mean, less sunshine. Ta-da. And the humidity is dropping a bit. Not a lot, but a bit. It's not quite as sweaty out there as it was before. And it's certainly not as hot. So, and speaking of storms, we're watching them. It's pretty crazy out in the Atlantic right now. But we've been blessed with a jet stream. What's wrong with my talking today? Hang on, I'll be back. Let me get my lips back on. Got it. We've been blessed with a jet stream that has dropped down over the lower U.S., and so that causes just about any storm that's coming aimed at us, from Africa, when it gets to the jet stream, it gets pushed north. And that's exactly what's happening now. Lee, and I forget the other storm starts with an M. That storm is also already twisted and going north. And then there's two more little yellow balloons that we're watching off of the African coast. And those both seem to be headed in the same direction. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Today, in September, the 10th, yes, today's the 10th. This is the peak day of hurricane season, officially. And it drops off rapidly after this into October. Yay, hallelujah. So, yeah, that's how we do. Hey, listen, people in the Midwest have tornado season, and I know how that, I lived there, so I kind of know what that's like. And this is the same sort of thing. No matter where you live, you're in the way of something. That's just the way it is. A follow-up to the passing of Jimmy Buffett. Thank you so much for all the notes on last week's podcast. You guys are really nice. Yes, that was heartfelt. I'm glad you got some information out of it. I got a lot of notes from people saying, man, your album dating and time and stuff was really interesting. A lot of people had no idea Buffett's been around since 73. I guess it's just because a lot of people are younger than me, obviously, in their 40s or so, and they just associate Buffett with the 80s and 90s. And no, it started way before that. But thanks much for the notes. But a follow-up, the outpouring of love for this dude is unreal. It really is, and it's still coming in, not only from the Keys, but from all over. and I'm not really surprised. On that note, the powers that be went ahead and approved the release of 3 cuts from the new upcoming unreleased album, Equal Strain on All Parts. That's the name of the album. It's due out in November. I think November 4th is what they said. The title is what Jimmy's grandfather used to call a nap. I like that a lot. Equal Strain on All Parts. And by the way, the album is being pre-sold now at Margaritaville.com. So if you go online, you can actually go and buy, if they're still there, vinyl albums and CDs. And so you can go ahead and pre-order if you want. 3 tunes that have been released, Like My Dog, My Gummy Just Kicked In, and what I personally believe is one of the best Buffett songs ever written, Bubbles Up. And Bubbles Up has really taken the fans, not just the Parrotheads, but I mean everybody that listens to Buffett by storm. That is a beautifully written song. It brings a tear to your eye just about every time you listen to it. It's going to take a while to get over it because it's apropos. I mean, it's extremely fitting to Jimmy passing. So you can download all 3 songs on just about any music service. So there you go. Hey, I got to bring this up. I do it every week. Got to brag about myself. Hey, what I know about fishing Southwest Florida, Bridge to Paradise, and Take a Kid Fishing are all books authored by me and are available on Amazon Books and Kindle. You can also order them directly from my website at Catch Outdoors. These copies will arrive signed by me. The number of copies I've got stashed in the closet are dwindling fairly quickly. Thank you for ordering. So get your copy soon. I don't think I'm going to be doing a reorder on this one, on hard copies. I'm probably just going to leave it up to Amazon Kindle to take care of that side of it. Yes, there's a book in the works about fishing the Florida Keys. That's all I'm going to say. It's getting there. I promise. It's getting there. It's getting there. And now for episode 103, 1700 Islands is what I titled it. The Florida Keys are made up basically of 70 islands, which are the major islands in a string from Soldier Key, which is just south of Key Biscayne up in the Miami-Dade County area, down to the Dry Tortugas in Monroe County. So most people don't realize the Florida Keys, the Florida Keys, there are keys included that actually go up into Miami-Dade all the way up toward Key Biscayne, but don't include Key Biscayne. So there are some Keys Islands in Miami-Dade, and the rest of them are in Monroe County. And even I found that interesting last year when I looked it up. I wasn't really sure. Now, however, if you count the little islands that are in the long span of major islands nearby, not, close enough for a boat, the number then becomes around 800. You just, I looked these all up. I'm like, 800. Goodness. Well, that makes sense. I mean, if you fish all the islands around our mate, like Key Largo, there's dozens and dozens of islands close to us that you can fish. If you count every single island, that's 1,700. Wow. And that's the printed number. If you go and look it up, you'll see these numbers. You'll see 800 and 1,700. I had to go pull it apart to figure out what that was all about. The 800 is kind of like the islands that we fish close by. The 1,700 is every little island. Yeah. And a little portion of that is actually a piece of the 10,000 islands. So doing the research, that's how I found out. That's how I came up with the bigger number. We actually have, Monroe County actually goes up into the 10,000 islands. Most folks associate that with Collier or the Naples area coming south into Marco, Chokoloskee. Well, just below Chaco, it becomes Monroe County. So you actually have Monroe County involved in that as well. And that number sounds reasonable since you do have the 10,000 islands on the West Coast, right? So I guess we own a portion of that, or we can put our finger on a portion of that. The islands of the Keys are somewhat unique in makeup. I was asked this recently, so that's why I have to do this. It's like, what the heck is under you? Well, above us on the surface, Key Largo, for example, is like hardwood hammocks. It's woods. We have a lot of wooded areas. When you come down into Key Largo and you see Key Largo proper, what you don't realize on the left and right side of the road, all the way down are forest. And the houses are built in these forests, and the forests are protected. We live in the middle of one. Many people do, not just us. If you go up the road from us toward Ocean Reef, which is at the far end of Key Largo, the far northern end of Key Largo, or northeastern end, if you will, you'll pass a huge park area on both sides of the road made up of hardwood and crocodiles. Seriously, it's actually called crocodile. But anyway, that's this area. Now, when you get down into Marathon, it becomes a little bit different. Marathon is, I call it brush and coral and rocks and mangrove, and it's more lower cuts. You don't see great big huge forest of trees there. It's a lot. It's just different looking. When you get down there, it's most definitely different looking. And when you get down to the Keys, it's houses and homes. I mean, there's not a lot of forest left in Key West. Outside space, plenty of outside space, but it's definitely a whole lot different looking than it is up here in Key Largo. Underneath the hardwood, scrub, whatever you want to call it, is basically coral rock and heavy-duty limestone. We live on a rock. Songs have been written, about living on a rock. We live on a rock. That's one thing that virtually remains the same for all of the Keys. We are based on coral rock, and it's impossible to dig a hole to plant a bush or a tree. I tried. I know. I tried. I did it. I didn't do it, I mean. The joke down here is if you want to plant something in the ground, you're going to need to run a jackhammer for somebody to get it started. And even then, you're going to put it into a coral hole and then fill it with potting soil dirt. Now, I'm not saying that things won't grow that way. They will, because people do this all the time. They plant palm trees and all kinds of stuff down here. But let it be known that digging a hole down here is not for the average Joe. Unless you like ruining yourself and your shovel. So I hope that answers that question. That was part of an email I got about, what do you live on top of exactly? Is there water under you? No, not really. It's rock, solid rock. Used to be the bottom of the ocean. Then this one came up. What if folks want to come to the Keys? Well, I've asked this question to quite a few people too. In other words, that I've had the pleasure of meeting while they're here visiting. The answer is basically I found in two parts, and it's not that complicated really at all. The first-time visitor is here in most cases because someone he or she knows has already been here and recommended you come down. And so that's the answer to why do folks come down to the Keys? That's answer number one. Number two is the return visitor. That's part two, is here because they liked it the first time. So it's pretty simple. Now, how did I find this out? Well, there's this thing called bars. You sit next to people, and it's really fun to chat with people in the Keys. And you find that they have very little dislikes, very little at all, other than mosquitoes, no-see-ums, and various other weird bugs, lizards, and things they've never seen before, till you get used to that. When you're sitting outside and you pick up your coffee cup or you pick up your newspaper and a lizard scoots out and you have not seen lizards, that's pretty freaky. They're not going to hurt you. But it's just one of those things that makes you jump, till you get used to it. Or a big old iguana goes walking across the backyard. You're like, what in the hell is that? Is that a dinosaur? No, it's just a big iguana. So that fun stuff, as I like to call it, is something that they don't care for, but it does not make them not come back. It does not make them not visit, which I find interesting. The big consensus that I found in this little study, it's an unofficial study, but in this little study of mine, is that most people enjoyed the visit. They say they enjoyed it mainly because it's the Keys, and the Keys are like visiting another world, but it's right here in the U.S. I hear that a lot. Well, it's like we went completely out of the country. And I find that really interesting since it is the U.S., but I understand it's connected to the U.S. by bridges. So, and in reality, we all consider it the Conch Republic. Nobody down here really talks much about it being the United States, which I find really funny. I'm like, welcome to the Conch Republic. That's pretty much how people view this area. And you can get used to that. You really can. So continuing my investigation, my research, I kept some notes. And this goes back to songwriters, not necessarily just Jimmy Buffett, but everybody that I've ever been associated with, had the fortune of talking to or reading, all say the same thing. They get most of their storylines from going somewhere and being near people and talking to people. That's where these storylines come from. So I thought, well, that's interesting. That'll fit in a podcast, certainly. So I kept notes. My last couple of visits to Key West. And I got these snippets of thought and observations from people that were sitting next to me at the Blue Heaven, at Hog's Breath Saloon, and Margaritaville. And these are in quotes. I don't have names, although I know most of their names, but I'm not going to do that here in case they don't want to be heard. This one guy said, I learned it's okay to wear shorts and flip-flops to dinner. You can also wear a hat, he said. The same for nice restaurants, but no hat and add a shirt with a collar, but Hawaiian print shirts are definitely in. So basically what he said was he felt it was okay down here and he's going to take this home with him. Why can't I wear shorts and flip-flops to dinner? Who says I can't do that? So he learned that here. He also learned he could wear a hat to dinner. Now I'll speak to this hat issue. My mother goes nuts if you wear a hat to dinner. You just don't do it. I don't care if you're going to McDonald's and sitting at a table. You do not wear a hat at dinner. That's her way. That's old school, and I know it, so I adhere to that. Take the hat off. Down here, nobody cares. They just don't care. Now, if you go to a nice restaurant, taking the hat off I would. Yes, absolutely. If it's got a white tablecloth on it, that's kind of my rule, because they no longer ask you for dress code within reason. I mean, obviously you got to wear a shirt and shoes, but flip-flops are okay, just so you know, it's okay. And I love the Hawaiian shirt comment, the collar with the Hawaiian shirt. Let's see. This one was, I think this was a guy. He said, most people don't wear shoes inside their homes. No, we don't. Don't have to. What's the point? Why wear your shoes inside? It's comfortable year-round. It's rarely ever cold inside our houses. It saves wear and tear on your tile floors, and shoes track things into the house anyway from outside, so it's great to leave them by the front door. We don't leave them outside because a raccoon will steal them and run away with them. But that's that animal thing again. But we have a rack inside our front door where shoes go. Just take them off. Enjoy yourself. The tile floor feels great. It's cool. Wonderful to sit in. There's no point in wearing shoes in Florida, especially when you don't have to. And we wear them outside because you're walking mostly on stones and coral rock down here. So you want to have a pair of flip-flops on. But I thought that was an interesting comment. This is good. This is a young lady that was near me, just standing behind me waiting on a drink. And she said, you know what's interesting? And I said, no, what? And she says, you can day drink here. Yeah. You can day drink all day if you want, which absolutely cracked me up. It was so hard for me not to laugh because she was dead serious. I said, yes, but it's really good if you learn to pace yourself. And she smiled at that. She thought that was pretty funny. But yes, it's okay to day drink here. I also heard something recently that I thought was very funny. Day drinking is for older people because we don't stay up late. If you're going to stay up till 2 a.m, then you should not start drinking until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. We, on the other hand, go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, so we can start drinking a whole lot earlier than you can because we're going to bed at 8. So I love that logic. This was nice. I don't remember if this is man or woman. I just made this note on a piece of paper. It's okay to be madly in love with islands and the sea. Yes, absolutely. That's why we're here. If you're in the Florida Keys, you probably line right up with that. If you're staying here for longer than 2 weeks, you probably love the islands and the sea. This is a good one. This one was, this was not at Blue Heaven. This was actually at Schooner's Wharf one day. Let's see. Music is not often played on the water on boats here. True. Yeah, true. Sunset cruises, yes. But if you're just going to go boating, they generally don't play music unless you ask them to. It's kind of like the serenity of being on the boat, on the water, in a place so beautiful. Why in the world would you mess it up by playing music? Especially loud. And I, being a fisherman, never play music on a boat when I'm fishing. It just doesn't even seem to match. and turn it down. If you're playing music, don't play it for everybody within 150 yards, okay? It'd be nice if we don't have to hear that. But that's just me, of course. That's just me speaking. I'm old, so I'm kind of over it. But no, I don't play music on a boat. Very rarely. I play it when I get home. Play it outside when I'm washing the boat, cleaning things up after the trip is over. But I thought that was an interesting observation because apparently people do that in other places, on lakes and up north, and when they're cruising, they play music. So that was kind of an interesting observation. This is a good one. This applies not only to the Keys, but just about anywhere. This guy said 3-day weekends aren't nearly long enough. This was on a 3-day weekend. And I looked at him and I said, yeah. And he says, as a matter of fact, a week down here isn't long enough. And I totally agree. So that was pretty juicy. I don't know. There's just something funny about that. And I think we all feel that way anyway. This one guy said, living down here is really laid back and a good way to make a lot of friends. Isn't that the truth? I can't tell you the amount of people Janelle and I met when we were down there for the Jimmy Buffett parade, as people are calling it, the send-off, as I like to call it. There were thousands of people in town on Duval, and we met so many wonderful people and had some great conversations with people from all around, from England and all over the United States. We talked to people, and I thought that was really something. So, yes, that's a valid statement. It's very laid back here. Gets back to T-shirts and flip-flops at dining rooms. And it's also a good way to make a lot of friends, no doubt about it. The direct sunshine seems a lot hotter than at home up north. Yeah, it is, because you're closer to the sun. That's probably not true, but it sure feels like it. We have sunshine. It's science, people. The earth tilts, and as the earth tilts, the sun goes away. In the wintertime, the earth starts to tilt toward the North Pole, basically, and the sun stays right where it is, but it appears to drift to the south. As it does, the days get shorter. The direction of the sun is not as severe up north. You get snow, ice, cold. We don't. And the sun stays high enough here to where it still feels hot during the day in December and January and February. If you're standing out with no shirt on and it's going to be hot, plain and simple. But I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, so the sun is hotter here than it is at home. Put your sunblock on. It's important to mention here, and I put this in my notes, that a lot of these statements also apply to many beach towns here in Florida, not just the Keys, but almost everyone. Let me get this right. I wrote a note. Yes, almost everyone I asked said the same thing about the Keys versus other beach locations, and that was that the Keys are much more relaxing. There's no need to be anywhere at any time. That's very, very true. We are very lax. We show up when we're asked to show up. Somebody says, we're going to get together at 9 tonight. We do it. We're going to get together at noon today, and and then more seriously, I want to meet everybody at 6:30 to go fishing. We adhere to those, but it's still laid back. It's not not cast in stone. You don't ever feel like you have to do something. I think that's probably what this person was referring to. I get this feeling that I just don't really have to do anything here. Well, some of us work. And some of us don't. Have to remember that a lot of people that live in the Keys are still working. And so there are many, many things that they do have to do. But that impression of being a more relaxed, laid-back area here than anywhere else in Florida, I can attest to that because I've been all over Florida. In the year that I've been living here, and not just visiting, I've heard that statement at least 6 times, this statement at least 6 times so far. I came down on vacation about blah, blah years ago, and decided to stay. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And I've heard it recently almost every week, especially if you're sitting in a restaurant near people. You get this story, especially at the restaurant bar. You're sitting up there eating dinner, and somebody say, you know what? I came down here on vacation, and it was in, it was in March of 2010. And I haven't left. And I'm not surprised anymore because the first time I heard that, I was like, really? But no, that really, really does happen. And it happens a lot to people down here. But I have to say, I'm not surprised. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Facebook page is Catch Ya Outdoors. The website is catchaoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and a schedule of what's to come. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.